Hey everybody, this is Jim Peterik, and I'm the next guest on Screen and Beyond.
On Screen and Beyond, an inside look into the entertainment world featuring interviews with people from the movie, TV, and music industry, news on upcoming TV and DVD releases, and the rumor mill. And now, here's the host of On Screen and Beyond, Brian Zemrak.
Joining us today on Screen and Beyond is a musician who was the co-founder of the group The Ides of March, known for their 70s hit Vehicle. He also co-founded the band Survivor, in which he co-wrote the hit songs Eye of the Tiger, The Search is Over, High on You, I Can't Hold Back, and Burning Heart. He also co-wrote hit songs for other bands, including Hold On Loosely and Caught Up in You for 38 Special, and many other songs. It's Jim Peterik. Jim, welcome to On Screen and Beyond.
Hey Brian, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you. And man, when you mention those hits, I'm like, yeah, I did those.
Jim, you were like the Energizer Bunny. You just keep writing and writing and writing and getting hit after hit after hit. And I mean, they're Oscar nomination songs, they're Grammy winners. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. The harder you work, the better you get at it. Starting with the Ides of March. I was 15 when we had our first hit record, You Wouldn't Listen. Number 42 on the Billboard charts, number 7 in Chicago. And it was just a very simple. I told you he was a fool, you wouldn't listen to me. We were kids.
Yeah.
Wow. But once you get a taste of success, it's not like we were driven to make money. No, we just loved to play for an audience, and it was very rewarding when a record actually sold, and then we're on tour, and it was just a great journey.
Now, the first time you heard one of your songs on the radio, how did you feel?
Oh man, well, the most significant one was when Vehicle came out, and we had a show on like a Friday, and the bar was buzzing. Just heard your song on the radio. I go, get out of town. No. And no, really, I just heard your song with the horns. And anyway, I didn't believe it. And the next day I'm going down I-55 towards St. Louis for something. And Art Robertson, WLS says, new from the Ides of March, Vehicle. Oh, and I floored that car. I must have been going 90 miles an hour down I-55. Still one of the biggest thrills of my life. I've had a lot of hits, but that one was the first time that I had that kind of reaction. The whole band did. And we celebrated that night.
Yeah. And the opening of that song, it just bang, it just hits you right off the bat.
I know the brass thing, we were very influenced by the soul bands. I feel good. That was even before like Blood, Sweat and Tears and Al Cooper and all that. But we already had a two-piece brass section, 2 trumpets. But once BS&T came out, we were very influenced by that. We added a saxophone, and that became that big Ides brass sound that you hear on Vehicle.
Yeah. Now, you talk about the Blood, Sweat, and Tears being an inspiration, but before you even started, getting into the business, what inspired you to become a musician? And who inspired you?
Yeah, well, Elvis Presley loomed large. I'm 73. My sisters, though, were quite a bit older than me. I was like the surprise baby. And and they would be watching, the Ed Sullivan Show and Steve Allen, and there was this group, and Elvis Presley came on, and I remember one time he was filmed only from the waist up because he was
Mhm.
too suggestive, the waist down. Anyway, I love Presley. I'm like 5 years old, and I have a ukulele, and I put my mother put masking tape that said Elvis on the uke. I mean, that's how big a fan I was. So Elvis was so pivotal, and that took me really basically up to the Beatles, and
I've heard of those guys.
yeah, they might make it,
Someday.
yeah, and that was seismic, and we were in the Ides of March. We were called the Shondells at the time, but we had to change our name because Tommy James and the Shondells.
Yes.
What are the odds that we both were called the Shondells? Uh, I called our band the Shondells because of Troy Shondell. This time we're really breaking up. That was Troy Shondell. Cool name. But fortunately, Tommy James must have heard the song too. So we were in high school and we went to this, concert, and we're standing in the lobby, and Bob Berglund says, "We need a new name." And Bob Berglund, our bass player, said, "I'm reading Julius Caesar, and look at this phrase here: beware the Ides of March." And we go, "Holy, that's way better than the Shondells."
Mhm.
And immediately we changed our name. We had the record company repress our record, which said the Shondells, and You Wouldn't Listen came out as, the
Wow.
Ides of March.
Jeez. That's it. Now, at 15, you're having a hit record on the radio.
Yeah.
How are they treating you in school at that point?
Oh my God. Suddenly those cheerleaders that wouldn't talk to us, they had a section of the cafeteria. It was like a raid session. We called it the stage, and only the cool jocks and cheerleaders could sit there. You know how the hierarchy of high school is.
Oh, yeah.
That song went number one, and suddenly the cheerleaders said, "Why don't you sit on the stage with us?" And we go, "Hell yeah." We're no fools. So, yeah, it was a big deal in high school. And I was awarded like Boy of the Year or something at the end. And yeah, nothing succeeds like success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, how did the Ides of March start? I mean, it was all you guys from high school just getting together?
Wow, this is really goes back, Brian. Uh, Actually, it goes back to third grade. And I went to Piper School, and there was another fellow named Bob Berglund. He was 1 year older, and Larry Millis, who was 1 year older. Bob Berglund and I were in Cub Scouts together, later on in Boy Scouts together. Larry was just a good friend, and Bob Berglund and I used to perform at PTA meetings. You know what that is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Parent Teachers Association meetings. And we did things like Stew Ball and these really corny songs because we didn't have any originals at the time. But I was fast friends with Larry and Bob, and then Mike Borch. He's 2 years older than me and still is, and he played cymbals and drums in the grade school band, then later in the high school band. So we've been together as a unit really since way back, but officially 1964 is when we got together. So that makes this year, we're celebrating 60 years together as a band.
Now, what do you attain for the the longevity of the same band members staying together when so there aren't many that stay around that long together? They break up or anything, but how has this happened?
Well, I think we set a record, but there was a break, not a break, but in '73, I decided, well, guys, I want to explore other, frontiers, so to speak, and I did a solo album called Jim Peterik Don't Fight the Feeling in '76 on Epic Records, which kind of went nowhere, but there was, it was okay, and it put me on the road with Boston. I remember the first show I did with Boston, it was their second show, and I literally had to push Brad Delp out on stage because he was so nervous. I said, "Get out there!" You know, these memories. But then I got pneumonia and I had to take like almost a year off, and that's when I started scheming this super group, originally called the Jim Peterik Band, but I started calling people that I really valued as musicians, like Dave Bickler. He's the fellow with the beret who famously sang "Eye of the Tiger," and Frankie Sullivan, who was this hotshot guitarist with a group called Mariah, which I wrote 3 songs for their United Artists album. And then I recruited Dennis Johnson, who was playing bass with Chase, and Gary Smith, who was playing drums with Chase. But Chase's plane went down and they were at loose ends, tragically. So that was the first incarnation of, I'm going to get rid of this incarnation of Survivor. And pretty soon we all realized that this wasn't the Jim Peterik Band anymore, because Dave Bickler was the focus. I was on keyboards and writing or co-writing all the songs, but it became the group. I came up with this name called Survivor because on the Jim Peterik solo album, Don't Fight the Feeling, the first line by Jim Charney of Epic said, "Jim Peterik is a survivor." And hell, I was a young kid, but I had, what he meant by that was the Ides of March and On the Road and all that. So that's how we got that name.
Wow. And how did you get involved with the Rocky films? I mean, did you call up Sylvester and say, "Hey, we got a song for you"?
Not really, but it was a great story and a real pivotal moment in my life. I was, doing some shopping. I was living in LaGrange at the time, and I got home when I had this answering machine, the one with the cassette in it. And I heard a couple of messages, one from my buddy Steve Salzman and one from my sister. And then I hear, "Hey, yo, Jim, that's a nice answering machine you got there. Give me a call. It's Sylvester Stallone." And I'm going, "Yeah, right." And I keep sorting mail, And God bless my wife, because she said, "Jim, that could have been Stallone. You better call him back." Okay. Yeah. It was a 213 area code, good sign, So I dial up the number and he answers, "Yo," good start. I said, "This is Jim Peterik. Are you really Sylvester Stallone?" He says, "Yeah, Jimbo, call me Sly," So here I am calling my hero Sly, and I got comfortable real quick. I go, "So what's going on, Sly?" And he goes, "I got this new movie called Rocky 3. I don't want to use that Gonna Fly Now song. It's a good song, but I want something for the kids, something with a pulse. Can you help me out?" I said, "Hell yeah." He said, I'm going to send you a rough cut of the movie, and I want you to write an anthem that's going to outlive you and me. And I said, "No problem." So FedEx comes 2 days later, and I had to rent a Betamax Pro machine to put this giant cassette in. And I called Frankie Sullivan over to watch it. And it was life-changing. It's funny though, because when we watched it, where Eye of the Tiger ended up eventually, it was Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. And I called Sly and I go, "Sly, you already got a song, Another One Bites the Dust." He goes, "Oh yeah, I couldn't get Queen's permission. You got to write me a new one." Okay, got it. Thank you, Queen.
Yes.
So we're watching the movie, and I had a guitar around my neck, and I was catching that pulse, and I just started going, like that. And I'm watching the punches being thrown, right? And I just go, wait for the punch. et cetera, et cetera. And I'm
Wow.
holy mackerel, this could be big. So I was a big jogger at the time. And as I was jogging around the neighborhood of LaGrange, Illinois, where I used to live, I'm writing down lyrics. You know, Frankie actually came up with the first seed idea, no music, but he said, back on the street, doing time, taking chances. And I really liked that. So I was working off that. And I said, wait a minute, how about this? Rising up, back on the street, did my time, took my chances, went the distance. Now I'm not going to stop, just a man in his will to survive. And then Eye of the Tiger, if we didn't call it Eye of the Tiger, we would be idiots, you know? What a great hook that Stallone never asked for credit. Oh, no, that's just a phrase I use. You know, you keep, great. Thank you, Sly. And, you know, as soon as we wrote that chorus, Eye of the Tiger, it's the threat of the fight, rising up to the challenge of our rival. We go, oh my God, this might be huge.
Yeah, that's for sure. Jeez. Huh. So now you have that one, humongous hit. It's going to live forever. I mean, it's one of those songs.
Yeah.
Then he brings you back again for Rocky 3.
Rocky 4. Yeah.
4, yeah.
Yeah, he sure did. And we were on the road at the time with REO Speedwagon, dear friends of ours still to this day, Kevin Cronin and I. Anyway, we were on the road with them, and we get a call from Stallone, and Frankie and I are sitting by the pool, you know, getting some sun, and he called, hey, yo, guys, you got to do it again, you know? And yeah, what's going on?
How do you match that?
I know. And by this time, we had changed singers. Dave Bickler left the band for throat reasons, and we replaced him with this great singer named Jimmy Jameson, who became the second voice of Survivor all the way to the end, you know. And so this time we weren't able to work with the film, but he sent us the script to the next town. We read the script and we go, oh, this is going to be huge, you know. And we had the roadies take out the Wurlitzer piano, put it in a hotel suite, and Frankie and I wrote Burning Heart.
Jay, it's just incredible how these things come to you like that, and it's just amazing. Now you've worked with a lot of different people, but one thing I noticed that when I was doing the research is you were actually a guest security guard on the Jerry Springer Show.
Guilty as charged. Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Well, I was pretty much a big Jerry Springer fan. I mean, he was so absurd and so camp that you just had to love him. And I got an invitation from his producer, you know, why don't you come on and be the security guard? And I remember my wife came and she sat in the front row, and I stood there very sternly. And everybody remembers this bit because what is Peterik doing on the Jerry Springer Show, you know? But it was an iconic moment. I'll never forget it. And he was such a great guy in person. I mean, when I met him, you don't find better guys.
Yeah. Now, did they play Eye of the Tiger, you know, when you were trying to stop the people from fighting each other?
Of course. I mean, that was the whole gimmick, really.
Yeah. Wow. Now, you guys are continuing to play Ides of March, still out there, playing, you know, concerts and things. And you also do a Cornerstones of Rock, right?
Cornerstones of Rock is one of my favorite shows because all the guys that we grew up with in Chicago, the Chicago scene, the Shadows of Night, the Buckinghams, of course, New Colony 6, Crying Shames, of course, the Ides of March. Sadly, we're losing a couple of cornerstones. Jimmy Sands passed away about 2 years ago, the incredible singer of Oh Yeah and Gloria with the Shadows of Night. But we have a guy named Dan Buck, who's a great singer, and he comes up and does the heck out of the Jimmy Sands stuff. And it's just a great show. And the Buckinghams, they have a set of their own because they have so many hits. And we come on at the end with Let Me Shape Me me, long as you love me, it's all right. You know, and it's a great night of music.
Wow, I can imagine. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the Turtles shows, yeah, the flower. I can't remember what they call it, but
Yeah,
their things, Ringo's All-Star Band. You know,
right,
you
right.
bring all these great hits together, and they just keep coming out with the song. Now, do you
Oh,
sing the Survivor stuff in there?
oh yeah. We do Eye of the we close the show with Eye of the Tiger. It's our
Yeah.
own version with the brass. Bap, bap, bap. It's very, very powerful. And I sit down at the piano. We do the Searches Over. We do I Can't Hold Back. Yeah, we pull from that. We do, you know, 38, 38 special.
Yep.
We do. Got it. Sammy Hagar. One way ticket to midnight. Call it heavy metal. And the night feeling just right. Call it not heavy metal noise. Bad. So I mean, and then we do new stuff from our more recent albums that, man, you know, gets really good response also.
Yeah, that's great. And it must be quite a sight to see all these people with, you know, huge smiles on their faces because of the memories you're bringing back to everybody.
That's what it's all about, really. You know, we have a huge fan base, but we make new fans, I think, every show.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, the old folks like our age bring their grandchildren and children, you know,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
always, you know, hopefully creating new fans.
Yeah. What would you have been if you hadn't been a musician?
Probably a musician. I had no other options. I never had a job. I never even had a paper route. My mother, my dad was a musician. I mean, by day he adjusted relays at automatic electric telephone, but he was really a weekend warrior. He had a band called the Hi-Hatters. They had the stands with the hi-hats
Yeah.
on up, and he played saxophone. Just a great sax player. I mean, in a real world, he would have been a professional musician, but he grew up in the Depression and he took a different route. But he was very influential in my life. And he had a 57 Chrysler with a huge trunk. And he used to take the Ides, what were called chandelles at the time, to different jobs.
Yeah.
They weren't gigs at the time, they were jobs. And we'd put the magnetone amps and stuff in the back, and this giant Chrysler would go to the show.
Yeah. Now imagine if you hadn't done if you hadn't written those songs, you never would have been on the stage with the cheerleaders back then and all of this. But you know, Jim, you know, people should be keeping an eye out for your concerts because it sounds like an amazing concert. Is there a place, website, socials where people can check out your information?
The idesofmarch.com and jimpeterik.com.
Okay.
That would be the best place. Got to put the THE, theidesofmarch.com and jimpeterik.com. And yeah, it's pretty active. I have a guy named Paul Brown who does all my social media, and he keeps the schedule really current, and you'll see all that.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jim, I want to finish up with one final question.
Yeah.
And taking us away from your music for a moment, but when you sit back and relax, what are your favorite TV shows now and of the past? And what's your favorite movies now and of the past? What do you enjoy watching?
Wow. Well, I'm an oldies freak. And I go back and watch my favorite shows like the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Classic.
And he falls over the ottoman every other show, and the other one he goes around it. I'm just an oldies guy, you know. I don't have any particular favorites now. I mean, I do watch TV.
Yeah.
It's usually like, you know, news, not news, but news programs that, you know, cover the whole world situation, and I keep up to date. But as far as relaxation, it's usually things like that, you know, that I watch.
Yeah. Same with me. I can, you know, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jim, I cannot thank you enough for joining us. And it's a thrill to have you on the show. I've loved your music, and I thank you so much for all the music that you've given us. And thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Brian. it was a great interview, and all I got to say is, it's deep, you got the eye of the tiger and the threat of the fight. Yeah, Brian.